Because if I'm Mike Bohn, the new AD at USC, I'm not looking to hire anybody internally to take over this thing, right? I'm looking to hire somebody externally to come in who has been in the winning program before, understands how big boy football is played, and wants to come in and just make his mark on the program. All right. Who is that person to bring in? Let's go over some quick names. Dante is the guy who's going to be the interim coach, according to the comment section. Let's draw some logical connections here. I'm going to start with the guy who just got a ton of love on the national media scene. Well-deserved. A guy who was without maybe the best defensive player in the country this weekend, and a guy who honestly has beaten you for a lot of big-time recruits in SoCal. And that's Mario Cristobal. Cristobal does not run a sort of fancy, not fancy is not the right word. He doesn't run a soft, finesse is the word I'm looking for. Does not run a finesse style spread offense. They do spread, but he develops the offensive line extremely well. Certainly the guys that he makes his team off are from SoCal for the most part, not Oregon. If you're SoCal, you, along with the University of Miami and a couple other programs, have always been committed to running more of a pro-style scheme, and you care about doing some stuff that's very much like the NFL. I think having a good offensive line is part and parcel with that. Cristobal, a former offensive line coach who knows how to develop that position, a position that has really struggled at USC now for several years under Clay Helton's tutelage. I think that is a place that they probably will at least take a look at. Great recruiter, tireless recruiter. If you talk to guys who work for Mario, they say he finds a way to bring up recruiting in every single meeting that he has. It's a major priority. You want to kind of put that fence up around Southern California. Of course, I think that's a little bit impossible to do. Players will always leave in some regard now. But realistically, that is a call that I think you have to make, given the guy's proven track record of recruiting west of the Rockies and making Oregon into a relevant program pretty quickly. Hold on here. So other guys that you have to look at here. And I think I had a list that I made of about 6. The next name that I know was at least considered last time when they were debating internally, like, who do we go get, was James Franklin at Penn State. Franklin at Penn State has done a tremendous job rebuilding them after the Paterno scandal. A really, really good recruiter. He's a guy who has proven, in my opinion, that he can make multiple good coordinator hires. So he's not one of these coaches who is dependent just on one coordinator. When that guy goes, there's a lot of question. And he understands how to run a program. Occasionally, people will question James Franklin's game management, but they do the same for Cristobal, or at least they did in the past. It seems to be improving there for Mario. James Franklin makes a hell of a lot of sense, right? A great recruiter. Is he really appreciated there in Penn State? Some people will tell you yes. Some people will tell you no. If I'm USC, I do go talk to James Franklin. You put James Franklin in LA, I believe he would do a really good job. I think he would recruit his butt off. And Penn State, they do a pretty damn good job of developing players. It's not, it doesn't just end on signing day. James Franklin obviously has won the Rose Bowl. He's won the Big Ten, one of the premier coaches in the sport. And I do think there is a bit more of a ceiling there at Penn State than there is at USC. If we're just being honest, it doesn't mean that if I'm James Franklin, I would go take USC. I think USC is a really good job, but there are things behind the scenes that make you question if it is a top 5 job. If it's really right, then there's no doubt it's a top 5 job. If you're getting that level of support, if you believe the conference is headed in the right direction, all of those things will matter. But James Franklin is sort of a no doubt name that you'll want to talk to. The third guy I want to mention here is Luke Fickell. So Luke Fickell, the Cincinnati coach, where did Mike Bohn come from? Oh, that's right, Cincinnati. If Mike Bohn really believes in Luke Fickell, I think he'll get a call. Now, is Fickell big enough for LA? Is he going to do, is he flashy enough? Is that actually even important there? I don't know that it's super important, but I do think you have to, you cannot just be, football coach only type thing in LA. I think you have to have a little bit of sizzle to you along with the steak. Luke Fickell's done a tremendous job at Cincinnati. He has a pretty nice opportunity this weekend to make a statement against a Big Ten team in the game against Indiana. But ultimately, I don't think Mike Bohn's decision to go after or not go after Luke Fickell will be determined based on this weekend's game. I mean, the guy worked alongside Fickell for several years there at At Cincinnati. Excuse me. Next guy I think you need to take a look at is Matt Campbell. Matt Campbell, who has a really good record of taking like lower profile guys and making them into something at Iowa State. However, he's not known as a great recruiter. I don't know if he really wants to be involved with all that comes with the USC job. And I don't know if that's a perfect fit, but I have seen that name bandied about there some. So for me, obviously James Franklin, Luke Fickell, Mario Cristobal are obvious names. A couple more that I want to throw out there. Urban Meyer. If Urban Meyer does not work out in Jacksonville, what better situation for him to jump back into than USC? The guy would have a tremendous record of picking jobs in his college career. He chose Florida over Notre Dame. He handpicked the spot he was going to return to college after his retirement, right? And chose Ohio State. And then for his third and final destination in the P5 scene, because remember, Utah wasn't P5 back when Urban was there, you go and you choose USC. That is tremendous, right? There have been some reports out there, probably unsubstantiated at this point, I think. How well is he meshing with the pro game? It's not a guarantee that Urban Meyer will have success in the NFL. Now, he had a ton of draft picks. He'll have a bunch of picks this upcoming year. He got to pick Trevor Lawrence. So I think the odds are pretty good that he'll have success in the NFL. But the NFL is a different ballgame. Ask Nick Saban how that went. Nick Saban, the best college coach in the history of the game, did not succeed in Miami. And he came back to Alabama, a perfect spot, and built them back into the monster that you see today. A couple other names that I think they might look at. PJ Fleck would be interesting to me if Minnesota had not taken that dip last year. PJ Fleck was a super hot coach following the 2019 season. Pretty good track record as a coach, elite track record as a recruiter relative to level. He built up Western Michigan there. He's done a nice job at Minnesota. They're not going to win the Big Ten West this year probably, but anyway, he's a pretty damn good coach. A bit of a showman, was in the NFL, can really get players there and recruit. And the development track record, again, is pretty solid. It's not just, hey, let's sign a bunch of good guys and then have it end on signing day. I think that's going to be important. As somebody for USC who culturally can instill some toughness, can instill a sense of pride in who they are, and somebody who really can relate to these kids and say, hey, the logo on your helmet does not equal success. You have to actually put in the work and make sure that you have the requisite level of competitiveness and toughness there in your practices. Last guy, and I think this is kind of a real long shot. What about Tony Elliott at Clemson? I know that Tony Elliott, whenever he goes, he wants to go to a spot that is competitive academically, and USC certainly has strong academics, really strong track record as a recruiter and as a coach. Probably a long shot to go from coordinator to the USC job with, as far as I know, no prior relationship there. But ultimately, maybe a name that should be mentioned. Just some things to look at. I know some other people have thrown out some names like Bill O'Brien and Greg Schiano. I don't buy into those at all. Just be alert as to why people throw out certain names ultimately in this process.